The Indiana Fever take the dub over the Sky in overtime. AB is a beast. Maisha Hines-Allen for president, and Caitlin, never take that leg sleeve off.
There is a deeper idea in competitive sports about the split identity of a team, where a roster is either built to dominate like a true title contender or exposed as a group that only looks competitive until real pressure arrives. When the Indiana Fever took the floor against the Chicago Sky, a team sitting near the bottom of the standings, everything on paper pointed to a straightforward outcome. The odds were heavily stacked in Indiana's favor, and most expected a controlled and decisive win. Instead, what unfolded was not a clean performance, but a dramatic mix of elite basketball and alarming mental breakdowns that completely shifted the game's rhythm. Music, welcome back to WNBA time, where today we break down a matchup that refuses simple explanation. Music, we are looking at Caitlin Clark's historic 32-point, 10-assist-level performance, the powerful interior presence of Aaliyah Boston, and the shocking collapse that turned a 19-point advantage into a tense overtime battle. To understand how everything unraveled, we start with the opening stretch of the game, where Indiana briefly looked exactly like the team fans believe they can become. After an uneven first minute filled with missed shots and early nerves, the defense finally settled in. The rotations tightened, communication improved, and the transition game became sharp and dangerous. Indiana began breaking down Chicago's defensive structure, exposing their slow lateral movement and punishing every small mistake. Music, in those early moments, the Fever looked fully in control, building momentum, and seemingly ready to put the game away early with authority.
7 minutes where the Indiana Fever played pretty good defense, just got right into the heads of the Chicago Sky, and they just started slaughtering them. They took that first quarter, scoring 27 points, to the Sky scoring 14, and then the second quarter slide skid happened. The Indiana Fever just lost the plot.
A 27-4 run completely shifted the tone of the game and made a clear statement about control on the court. It showed one team taking full command while the other struggled to respond in any meaningful way. After building a 19-point advantage against a side that had dropped 8 of its last 9 games, the expectation was simple: use the remaining quarters to manage the clock and test deeper rotation pieces. A well-organized coaching staff would normally turn that kind of lead into a chance to rest key players, evaluate bench contributions, and rehearse late-game situations without pressure. But the Indiana Fever could not enjoy that comfort because their defensive structure fell apart once the momentum shifted. What started as strong communication and energy in the first half disappeared as the game moved into the second. Perimeter defenders kept getting caught on screens, and help rotations on the weak side arrived just a moment too late, opening the door for easy baskets. Chicago, which had looked completely out of rhythm early on, suddenly turned the paint into a scoring drill. The third quarter became a clear defensive breakdown, exposing major issues in execution and leaving the coaching staff facing a troubling number of points allowed.
Started picking up the pace, shooting a decent field goal percentage, but then the third quarter happened and the Chicago Sky dropped 39 points. 39 points in one quarter on the Indiana Fever. Let's see what the Indiana Fever ended up dropping 27, but still, they allowed 39 points to get dropped on their heads. I have to say though, don't take the leg sleeve.
A 39-point burst in just 10 minutes of professional basketball is the kind of collapse that usually signals something far deeper than a hot shooting stretch from the opponent. Giving up that many points in a single quarter is not simply about missed rotations or a few unlucky possessions from beyond the arc. It reflects a breakdown in defensive effort, discipline, and in-game correction. In this case, it pointed toward a total failure to stabilize things when momentum swung. Stephanie White remained on the sideline as the game slipped away, with the team allowing run after run without meaningful defensive adjustments or timely timeouts to slow the surge and reset control. Yet inside this unraveling stretch, the importance of Caitlin Clark became impossible to ignore on a wider scale. When structure on defense disappears, and the offense turns into stagnant isolation sets, the burden shifts to a creator who can still bend the game. And Clark delivered exactly that impact. She played at an elite level, finishing with 32 points and 10 assists, marking her third outing this season with those numbers. To put that achievement in context, the rest of the league combined has only reached that same statistical mark a handful of times, highlighting just how rare her production has been in comparison. She is not just playing basketball, she is expanding what is possible from the point guard position in a way that feels almost mathematical in its precision. Her vision in transition disrupts defenses so completely that it leaves them frozen, unable to react to reads that most players would never even attempt to see. She consistently identifies passing angles that appear non-existent to ordinary athletes, turning broken plays into organized scoring opportunities. Caitlin Clark becomes especially dangerous the moment she secures a rebound and immediately pushes the ball up the floor because the entire defense starts to react before she even crosses half court. Opponents collapse inward out of fear, abandoning their original matchups and scrambling to protect the paint. That hesitation is driven by the constant threat of her pulling up from extreme range, which forces defenders into panic decisions and creates structural breakdowns across the floor. This constant pressure produces a gravitational effect that turns defensive schemes into chaos and opens the door for some of the most fluid and visually striking offensive sequences in the game. In moments like these, her transition execution becomes a clear example of elite court awareness and unselfish decision-making at the highest level.
To my mind at this was one of the best plays I've seen all year. Clark is sprinting down the court, feeds it inside to Kelsey, who behind the head passes it to Timpson, and she seals. It was just beautiful. I actually lost my mind in my life. And Caitlin did get a tech for turning around after drawing contact. Nothing was called.
That is the structure of championship-level basketball, where spacing, pace, and shared decision-making come together in complete control. That is what this team becomes when they commit to running the floor and moving the ball with real intention. In that environment, the clearest beneficiary was Aaliyah Boston, who stepped into a system that finally maximized her presence inside. For several weeks, her ability to finish through contact in tight moments had been questioned, along with doubts about how she handles physical elite front courts. Tonight, she answered all of it with authority. Boston was dominant against the Chicago Sky from start to finish, using her strength to carve out deep post position and consistently demand the ball in scoring areas. She finished through contact at the rim, controlled key offensive rebounds, and played with a level of force that had been missing at different points in the season. She produced 34 points and 12 rebounds, while shooting 50% from the field. And she also stepped out to knock down 2 three-pointers that forced the defense to extend far beyond the paint. It was a complete performance that stretched Chicago's defensive structure to its limit and delivered a clear statistical statement of dominance.
Finds Allen, the dog, but Aaliyah Boston dropped 34 points, 12 rebounds. She got herself a double-double also, 3 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. She almost fouled out of the game. She actually got real chippy with Azare. I don't exactly know what was said. I'm sure later the lip readers will be all over it. But she shot 13 for 26. That is 50%. 2 for 5 from the 3. As a big, Aaliyah Boston, you were so good.
When Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston operate at this exact rhythm, the Indiana Fever look almost unsolvable on the offensive end, with the pick and roll turning into a constant decision-making trap that defenses simply cannot cleanly answer. But basketball is still a 5-player game, and the uneven production from the supporting rotation nearly erased everything they built in this matchup. At this point in the season, with a significant sample of games already played, the evaluation period is over and the focus has shifted toward clear hierarchy based on impact rather than name value. Questions are now being raised about the rotational choices and in-game management from Stephanie White, especially as certain bench units fail to provide stability when starters sit. In contrast, Maisha Hines-Allen continues to stand out as a consistent source of energy and control off the bench, game after game, proving her value as an emotional and defensive stabilizer for the second unit. She does not need a high-volume offensive role to influence winning, instead contributing through rebounding, communication, and physical presence that raises the intensity of the entire group. Her defensive activity in key moments has repeatedly shifted momentum, and one sequence in particular showed how a single possession of pressure and effort can completely change the tone inside the arena.
A lot of points every game. Her impact she's just a dog. I mean, look at this block on JC Sheldon. This got everyone in Gainsbridge out of their seats, created some momentum for the team, and she flexes. It was just nasty. And wait, what else? Let's look at her stats tonight. Again, she came away with 5 points. She was in for 23 minutes, 9 rebounds, 3 assists.
That is the kind of energy required to survive and win ugly basketball games, when nothing comes easy on either end of the floor. But when you compare that intensity to the minutes being distributed to Monique Billings and Damaris Danas, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. Billings logged 10 minutes without scoring, without assisting, and without providing any meaningful resistance on defense, leaving stretches of the game where the team simply lacked stability. Dantas, meanwhile, struggled to find rhythm inside the offensive system, looking disconnected from the flow of sets, committing turnovers, and offering limited rim protection when it mattered most. The continued reliance on unproductive rotations while leads evaporate has raised serious questions about in-game decision-making from Stephanie White, especially in high-leverage moments where adjustments are urgently needed. In contrast, Maisha Hines-Allen has repeatedly shown why she deserves consistent trust in the rotation, bringing defensive urgency, rebounding presence, and vocal leadership that stabilizes the second unit even without needing scoring opportunities. Her impact is not always captured in box scores, but it consistently changes the tone of possessions and raises the physical level of the team. All of that context led into a tense and chaotic finish after the Fever survived a third-quarter collapse and entered the final seconds with a fragile 3-point lead and just 7 seconds remaining on the clock. In that situation, the expectation is simple and routine in professional basketball: secure the inbound, absorb contact, hit free throws, and close the game. The ball was placed in the hands of Kelsey Mitchell, an experienced guard who has handled countless late-game situations throughout her career. Yet what followed turned a controlled ending into one of the most costly breakdowns of basic game management seen this season.
Integral mistakes, like integral in not the good way. And in the fourth quarter, the Indiana Fever were up 98-95 with 7 seconds left. All Kelsey needed to do was to get the ball, dribble it around, run around, wait to get fouled or whatever, and she dribbles it off her foot, ending up in a turnover where Skylar Diggins sank a 3, putting the game into overtime, which it had no business going into overtime after blowing the 19.
She dribbled it off her own foot in a moment that completely shifted the final seconds of regulation, as a veteran guard lost control of the ball at the worst possible time and directly gifted possession to the opponent. In the aftermath, Skylar Diggins Smith stepped into the opportunity and buried the 3-pointer that turned what should have been a finished game into an unnecessary overtime collapse. This is what happens when a large lead is wasted. The psychological pressure starts to spread through the entire roster, and panic replaces structure. Veterans begin to abandon composure. The system stops being trusted, and decisions become rushed to the point where mistakes appear that would normally not happen even at lower levels of competition. The Indiana Fever were effectively giving the game back through unforced errors, inviting a struggling opponent to steal momentum at the final moment of regulation. But in overtime, the defining force of the night took control as Caitlin Clark refused to let the combined breakdowns of coaching and execution dictate the result. Earlier, she had already been assessed a technical foul, yet instead of allowing frustration to derail her focus, she used it as fuel and elevated her aggression at the right time. She attacked the rim repeatedly, forced contact, and drew consistent whistles that sent her to the free throw line again and again, ultimately converting 15 attempts in critical moments to stabilize the game. Stephanie White and the Fever still escaped with the win, avoiding an embarrassing loss to a lower-ranked opponent after holding a 19-point advantage, but an overtime survival against a struggling team still exposed deeper concerns that go far beyond the final score. This is a massive warning signal for where this team stands right now. You cannot survive a WNBA playoff environment by constantly grinding out chaotic wins against clearly weaker opponents, and you cannot expect Caitlin Clark to deliver 32 points and 10 assists every single night just to mask defensive breakdowns and poor late-game decision-making. The reality is that the tape from this game exposes too many structural issues that cannot be ignored, from the disastrous third-quarter collapse to the costly late regulation turnover that completely changed the ending. Inside the organization, the front office has to watch these moments closely and recognize how fragile the overall foundation really is, even with elite individual production. Clark and Aaliyah Boston are already performing at a historic level for a young duo, carrying massive offensive responsibility and consistently producing at a star tier, but their impact alone is not enough to stabilize everything around them. They need a system that protects leads, a coaching approach from Stephanie White that understands tempo and clock control, and a rotation that prioritizes defensive reliability over underperforming minutes that hurt momentum. Even moments involving veterans like Kelsey Mitchell and key plays where mistakes were punished by opponents, such as Skylar Diggins-Smith, highlight how quickly control can slip away when discipline breaks down. This is not about celebrating a narrow escape. It is about recognizing that championship standards require consistent execution, not survival basketball. And every breakdown on tape is a reminder that adjustments are no longer optional.